Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 31. Narada instructs the Pachetas, text number 3. Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Pare mane brahmane yojitatmana.
Pare mane brahmani yojitatmana.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Tanirjita pranamano vacho driso.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Pare mane brahmane yojitatmana.
Pare mane brahmani yojitatmana.
Shura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Tanirjita pranamano vacho driso.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Pare mane brahmane yojitatmana.
Pare mane brahmani yojitatmana.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Pare male brahmani yojitatmana.
Pare mane brahmani yojitatmana.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Pare male brahmani yojitatmana.
Pare mane brahmani yojitatmana.
Surejo dadrise smanarada.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Pare male brahmani yojitatmana.
Pare mane brahmani yojitatmana.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Ladies.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Nirjita pranamano vacho drisho.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Jita sanansanta samana vigrahan.
Pare male brahmani yojitatmana.
Pare mane brahmani yojitatmana.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Sura surejo dadrise smanarada.
Tan. All of them. Nirjita. Completely controlled.
Completely controlled.
Prana.
Prana.
The life air. By the pranayama process.
Pranayama process.
Manaha.
Mind.
Mind. Vachaha. Words. Drisha. And vision. Jita asanam. Who conquered the yogic asana.
conquered the yogic asanas,
or sitting posture.
or sitting posture.
Shanta,
Shanta,
pacified.
pacified.
Samana,
Samana,
straight.
straight.
Vigraha,
Vigraha,
whose bodies.
whose bodies.
Pare,
Pare,
transcendental.
transcendental.
Amale,
Amale,
free from all material contamination.
free from all material contamination.
Brahmani,
Brahmani,
in the supreme.
in the supreme.
Yojita,
Yojita,
engaged.
engaged.
Atmanaha,
Atmanaha,
whose minds.
whose minds.
Surasuri Daya,
Surasuriya,
worshipped by the demons
worshipped by demons
and by the demigods.
and by the demons.
Tadrise,
Tadrise,
saw,
saw,
Sma,
Sma,
in the past.
in the past.
Narada,
Narada.
the great sage Narada.
The great sage Narada.
Translation: after practicing the yoga asana for mystic yoga, the Prachetas managed to control their life air, mind, words, and external vision. Thus, by the pranayama process, they were completely relieved of material attachment. By remaining perpendicular, they would concentrate their minds in the uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayama, the great sage Narada, who was worshipped both by demons and by demigods, came to see him. Purport. In this verse, the words Pare Amale are significant. The realization of Brahman is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. The absolute truth is realized in three phases: impersonal effulgence, Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. In his prayers, Lord Shiva concentrated upon the personal feature of Parabrahman, described in personal terms as Snigdha Pravrit Ganashyamam, Bhagavatam 4:24-45. Following the instructions of Lord Shiva, the Prachetas also concentrated their minds on the Shamasundar form of the Supreme Brahman. Although impersonal Brahman, Paramatma Brahman, and Brahman as the Supreme Person are all on the same transcendental platform, the personal feature of the Supreme Brahman is the ultimate goal and last word in transcendence. The great sage Narada travels everywhere. He goes to the demons and the demigods and is equally respected. He is consequently described herein as Sura Suredya, worshipped both by the demons and by the demigods. For Narada, the door of every house is open. Although there is perpetual animosity between the demons and the demigods, Narada Muni is welcomed everywhere. Narada is considered one of the demigods, of course, and the word Devarisi means the saintly person among the demigods. But not even the demons envy Narada Muni. Therefore he is equally worshipped by both demons and by demigods. A perfect Vaishnava position should be just like Narada Muni's, completely independent and unbiased. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyanandana Salakaya Shakshuranminitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dhanati Swapadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing 2 points in this from this verse in his purport. Namely, the first one, that the Prachetas, although it is described that they were controlling the life airs through pranayama and yoga asanas and fixing their mind on Brahman, that we can understand that it was Parabrahman, or as is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitam Paramam Padam. Krishna is that Param Brahma. So the Prachetas were instructed by Lord Shiva, who told them how to practice their meditation. And upon his order they were practicing. So then Srila Prabhupada points out that from a little further in the fourth canto, or no, earlier in the fourth canto, sorry, that Lord Shiva was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, it is derived that the Prachetas were also worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not just Brahman, but Para-Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada refers to the verse, Vadanti tat-tattva-vidam tattam yat-gyatvamayamam brahmeti paranatmeti bhagavan-iti sabjite. That the one undivided absolute truth, so it's the same truth, is known in three features, either Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan, but all part of the same truth. So we also understand like that. Therefore, when we see that Brahman is worshipped exclusively, then we realize that that this is only partial understanding, incomplete. There must be Bhagavan as well. But the relationship with Brahman can offer Brahmananda, which basically means relief from material suffering, which is, of course, desirable, mukti, liberation. But who wants material suffering? But the relationship with Bhagavan in that feature is offering eternal transcendental bliss, or Sat-Chit-Anand. So therefore, we understand that the realization in the personal feature is higher, because in the impersonal one reaches a state of Brahman, which means free from all material suffering, and then within that Brahman there's no further development. That's it. Whereas in the Bhagavan relationship, one gets an eternal relationship with Krishna, and within that relationship the love is eternally growing, because Krishna has unlimited qualities, and all the qualities of Krishna are lovable. Therefore each time one discovers a new aspect of Krishna, and that is also completely overwhelming and lovable, and that's just an eternal, transcendental journey. So we can easily understand that the concept of Bhagavan, Krishna, is greater than the concept of realizing Brahman. Therefore we understand Bhagavad Gita. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatmana Kangshatina Sarusati Samasarvasu Bhutisu Madbhaktim Lavate Param. That when Brahman or Brahma Bhuta is realized, then that's not satisfying, and therefore Madbhaktim Lavate Param, then still hungry, still unfulfilled, and therefore devotional service comes next. Devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So anyway, the Prachetas were engaging in devotional service. Not everyone might understand that, but the Acharyas make it a point to make that very clear, and you can see with evidence from other sections, with arguments, it's established. Yes, the Prachetas were personalists. Alright, that is the first part of the purport. The second part, the part about Narada, is interesting because it is said that Narada is, where was it now? Yeah, here it is. Sura Suridyo Dadrisi. He was equally accepted by the Suras and the Asuras, or by the devotees and the demons. We find the same about the six Goswamis. Dira Adira Jana Priya Guru. They are dear to the gentle and the ruffians, as they translate it. So dear to everyone. How is that? But then also we understand from the purport, it is mentioned that Narada was in an aloof position. Narada was not getting involved in the worldly affairs in general. Generally speaking, Narada was just absorbed in his own transcendental activity, glorifying the Supreme Lord. And he didn't bother, about this issue or that issue that other people were getting very worked up about and very polarized about and very divided about. And then Narada had nothing to do with it. He was just not part of the issue, and everyone could see that he was not part of the issue, and therefore the demons could also accept him. If they would have felt that Narada was partial, that he was inclined towards the same opinions as the demigods, then they would not have been able to accept him. But because Narada was just aloof, not involved, totally in the renounced order, having nothing to do with the ways of the world and all their anxieties and opinions and division. Therefore Narada, being saintly and wise and being aloof, could be accepted by all. So we need some sadhus in the world who take that kind of aloof position from worldly affairs and just focus on worshipping the Supreme Lord. You see the same in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, when Dhruva Maharaj is engaged in this fight with the yakshas. After his brother has been killed by a yaksha, and then Dhruva starts to kill all the yakshas. And it gets a bit out of hand. Kshatriya anger, and he's just finishing them off, one after the other. So at one point, Swayambhuva Manu appears. And it's the same kind of thing. Swayambhuva Manu is totally aloof. He has nothing to do with worldly affairs. He's not like taking sides or this or that. It's not that he's a protector of the yakshas. Nothing like that. But Swayambhuva Manu is just saying, look, now you are killing people who had nothing to do with the killing of your brother. One yaksha killed your brother, and now you're killing all the yakshas. But they had nothing to do with your brother, so that's not an appropriate activity. Then it becomes sinful activity. You can't really do that, and that's not auspicious. So he was reminding him of principles of Dharma. After all, he was in the family lineage of Swayambhuva Manu, and Dhruva was carrying on the mission of Swayambhuva Manu, the mission of establishing and maintaining Dharma in this world. And now the upholder of Dharma was acting in an adharmic way. So alright, then Swayambhuva Manu temporarily came down, right? Came down from his Uttama Adhikari platform, from his platform of being absorbed in his worship of Krishna and just not worrying about the world, to the Madhyama Adhikari platform, where he took sides, where he began to say, this is right, this is wrong, this is duty, this is not duty, this is sinful, this is not sinful. And he began to temporarily speak out like that. So Narada also sometimes does, right? We see, out of his causeless mercy, to uplift those who are entangled. Sometimes the devotee who is otherwise absorbed in worshipping Krishna descends. So this is our point, and we have to get there. Increase our worship of Krishna, and then every once in a while descend into the world and deal with the world. Not that we are like so much in the world and then every once in a while reach up to the eternal reality. That's the conditioned state. When we are serving Krishna in the conditioned state, then we are always absorbed in worldly affairs, and sometimes we reach up to Krishna, and then we are again in worldly affairs. And then sometimes again we reach up, and it's like God, it's so difficult to remember the spiritual world. So it's so far away. So far away. No. One must become more absorbed and reside, being a resident of the spiritual world by glorifying and worshipping Krishna. And then the spiritual world descends. Ye dine griyete bhajana deki griyete kolokabhaya. That day that in the house, in the home, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped, that day Goloka will descend. And so that's the whole idea. Normally the household is a busy place, extremely busy. There's no time, everything is rush, so much to do. So much, too busy. It is like that. That is household life. Working and quick breakfast before and just quickly, everything quickly. There's so much to do. So it's a busy life. But then when the glorification of Krishna is there, then even in that busy life, where there are so many mundane things that just need to be done, inevitably so, in the middle of that busy life, also Golok will descend. Why? Because of the bhajan, because of the worship, because of the glorification. So this is the key of Narada's consciousness, that Narada is so transcendental due to his worship, is simply worshipping Krishna, one way or another. Of course, the principal worship in this age is Harinam Sankirtan, undoubtedly. So Narada is although he is not from this age, it is interesting that Narada is very much a devotee of this age, because he's a Sankirtan devotee. He is always traveling, he's always glorifying the Supreme Lord, and he's always, whenever there's an opportunity to give the mercy to someone, he gives. So Narada very much is in that mood of the Sankirtan devotee, which is interesting. He is very much a preacher. Prahlad also. Monam charanti vijanena parartha nista. He's talking about those who go into the forest and are practicing mona and different vows of austerity, and they're only interested in their own advancement. But Prahlad says, not me. No, I am also interested in the well-being of others. Otherwise, I'm not interested in going back. So that's also our line. So it's just that absorption. First of all, the absorption. We are not the movement of super bhakta running out of the gate with a flapping cape, right? Without getting absorbed ourselves. We have to get absorbed. So we're not chanting our rounds to sort of sustain our preaching. Our chanting, that's really who we are. That's where we live. That's where we live. And in other areas then, okay, we have to deal with the energy of death. Right? But when we're chanting, we're alive. Then we are alive. Then we are actually, that's where the essence of our life is. That's where the energy is. That's where the pran is, or as the Chinese say, the chi. Yeah, that's the hub of the chi, where it is. Yes. In that glorification of Krishna, particularly in the chanting. So that's what we do. The pictures on the wall, glorification of Krishna. Everywhere, glorification of Krishna. The sign in front of the door is like Hare Krishna, effulgent and very attractive and beautiful, and just the whole world is just feeling like, wow, Hare Krishna, like that. The holy name is effulgent, is lighting up the entire world, is lighting up the consciousness. But if we ourselves, if our normal consciousness is gloomy and dark, like the songs I remember are now very old, right? You know, there was a song like, "Hello darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk to you again." Yeah. A very famous song, "The Sound of Silence." Right? Yeah, that's what everybody knows. Darkness, really, dark things to hide, sinful, dark. Don't tell anyone. And nobody knows these things. No, nobody. These are the secrets. Nobody knows. Like that, darkness. This is darkness. Dark activities. And then the whole world gets dark. Dark grows. Dark. Repent, O sinner. Dark. Consciousness dark. The graveyard. I have sometimes gotten into this. A lecture that I inspired on yantras and mandalas, right? Just as you have mantras where spirituality is manifest in sound, you also have yantras where spirituality is in a drawing, and then they have like a square which represents the universe, then within that a circle which represents the gross body, then within that a second circle which represents the subtle body, and then in the subtle body there is an area which is called the graveyard. Yeah, the graveyard, sort of like, that's where all the sinful remnants are buried. Come out of their graves at midnight. Sometimes I got into it very graphic, not today. We'll leave it at that, but the point is that yes, this darkness, so this is the darkness within our mind, within our consciousness, this darkness. And of course, then comes an effulgent personality, Om Ajnanati Mrandasya Kinandana Salakya Shakshuramigitamyana Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Just pierces through that darkness, and it's shocking. It is shocking. When a spiritual master comes in his bright effulgent, it's shocking. It's like I had a picture upstairs of Prabhupada, and it's quite an amazing picture. I mean, because Prabhupada is like, he's arriving somewhere, obviously, and devotees are showering flower petals from a balcony. Right? So there's all this rain of flower petals. Right? And Prabhupada is just smiling a smile. It's just such an overpowering, smiling presence. Right? It's not just, the mouth is not just smiling. His whole face, his whole appearance is smiling, and it's just like beaming, And then it's it's like there's like an energy, an effulgence bouncing off him, right? And Tamal Krishna Maharaj is sort of standing next to him, and is kind of like hit by the power. He's sort of thrown back by it a little. So he stands like looking at it. You just see the energy has hit him, It's like, so he leans back as if he'd been hit by something. It's very interesting. the Om Agyana Timarandasya Kinandana Sarakya Shakshur Ninitamyana Tasmai Shikurudev. That potency, that penetrates, that cuts. And of course, Guru Varga, the entire line of disciplic succession is what we are speaking about. Vande Gurun Isa Bhaktam Isa Avatarakam. It is said Vande Gurun, it is the plural, plural. Yeah, the whole Sampradaya, everything, all the acharyas, they just, there comes a time in one's spiritual life where one, in the beginning, one has to learn the basics, right? So one walks around with the songbook and it's like Sansara Dava, looking at the ball, Namo Namo. And that's like, that's the beginning, where the focus is to learn all these kind of practices. And then one sort of cuts it down, And there comes a phase where one begins to connect with the acharyas. There comes a phase where one gets to know them, And that's who is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur? Not just, the writer of Samsara prayers. Also known as Guru Vastakam. No. But then we begin to find out Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who he was, what his mood was. We know some of the books and commentaries he wrote, and that he, like his 10th canto commentaries, he gets into all these conversations. And you can look, like he writes his commentary on the 10th canto, and it's like constant conversations between Krishna and devotees, and it goes up and down. And you go like, how does he know all these things? How does he know what they said? And you can see that, like, is he hearing it? A Parisat devotee. There are these Parisat devotees, these devotees who are here in the material world, but who are perceiving the spiritual world. They are fully perceiving the spiritual world. They are just perceiving the whole, whatever is going on, the pastimes there. They are there and here at the same time. So there is levels of being in the spiritual world. One is one can just remember the spiritual world, and other is one can actually perceive the activities of the spiritual world directly. And of course we see some of the great acharyas are described like that. Srinivasa Acharya, there's that story that Srinivas once entered into the holy pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the gopis, and he became stunned, and he stood on the road like a statue, and he didn't move. And then no one really was there, he was alone. And then he just, when he came back to his external senses, he was completely covered in color from the holy pastimes, right? And then, then what he did is he quickly went to wash it off, right? Someone else might stop taking baths, right? Oh, what happened to you? Oh, well, I saw Radha and Krishna, and then I had all this color. No, not Srinivas. He kept it private. He was hiding it. He did not inform anyone. And then another pastime is that the gopis, the Sakhis, were assisting Srimati Radharani in getting ready to get dressed to meet Krishna. And it was quite a task. It's not just, okay, 1, 2, 3, jump in your clothes kind of thing. No. It's a whole arrangement of dressing Srimati Radharani. I mean, everyone. Every detail gets the full attention, you know, a little bit of decoration on the hand, you know, okay, which bracelets go there, all to attract the mind of Krishna. Even the tilak, you know, it's like a dot, right? But not just a dot, there's little decorations and this, that, in the dot as well, and around the dot, and God knows what. But all that is going on there. So it's a big thing, the dressing. And then there was a nose pearl, and somehow or other, one of the Sakis dropped that nose pearl into the Yamuna. It slipped from her hand, fell into the Yamuna. But it happened to be so that Srinivas, in his gopi form, in that form, that she saw exactly where that pearl fell. So then, although being in the material world, suddenly, again in a trance, then in her spiritual body, that she dove into the Yamuna, picked up that pearl, and just presented it right at the proper moment. And it was time to place it into the nose, or on the nose, or Srimati Radha. Anyway, things like that you read about the acharyas, you know. So absorption would go up to other levels and other levels. So there are levels of absorption, undoubtedly, but this kind of absorption is required, and it was a constant. There's a constant reciprocation between cultivation, you know, pibata bhagavatam rasanalayam, drinking the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who is such an ecstatic acharya, who says this laya, rasamalayam, right? Pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam, that is the word laya. He said laya is listed as one of the 8 ecstatic transformations, which come when a person is overwhelmed by love of God, and it means fainting. He said, so one should drink the nectar of the Bhagavatam until one faints. He says, then when you faint, you cannot hear the Bhagavatam anymore. He says, that's all right, then you wait till you come to your senses, then you hear it again, and then you faint again. And then you hear it again, and then you faint again. So these acharyas were like, not just, I read today, no, they were like, into it. We see they wrote all these commentaries, I mean, which really means they studied every word, and they got into every word. It's like, it's quite an intense way of reading, very contemplative. They call it lectio divina, you know, like reading in a contemplative way, in a prayerful way. They were really penetrating, really meditating on these verses. What does it mean? How to understand this, and so on. And they got absorbed. So I may say, yeah, that's the acharyas. Wonderful, wonderful, very, very nice. Then just yesterday, or day before yesterday, one Prabhupada disciple, Uttama Sloka, he sent out a letter, you know. He sent out a letter, and somehow or other it came to me also. You don't know how, but you know, somehow or other my name got on the list of receivers, and I got it. Right? So, and he was describing how in his time, when Srila Prabhupada came to one temple in Canada somewhere, I forgot which one, maybe Toronto, that he was the temple president, right? And that he, at that time, had instituted that they had 6 classes a day in the temple. 6 classes a day, yeah. And in this, gosh, you know, And they were studying all different books and so on. And then he told Prabhupada about it, yeah? And Prabhupada said, oh, very nice, very nice. And then later he went to St. Louis, and then he did the same thing. Yeah, he did the same thing. And again Prabhupada heard about it, and again Prabhupada said, very nice. Of course, 6 classes is a lot, right? It sort of becomes like a college, practically speaking, like an educational institution. There's hardly. He said, but the amazing thing was, he said, no, it was not St. Louis, Chicago. And he said that he was president. He did it in Chicago also. And then he said the amazing thing was that Chicago became the biggest book distribution temple. Okay? He said in spite of so many classes, they distributed most books. All right, I'm not making an issue of having 6 classes. I'm not advocating that here. I was telling the story, that's all, and leave it for you to, put it in in a nice story box, right? And kind of keep it there, and sometimes dust it off and look at it from, wow, look at that. What the things that devotees do, kind of, nice story box. Wow, the things that devotees do. You can look at it like that, and consider that. So no pressure. But the bottom line is, though, that absorption is coming also from some endeavor. Yeah, that's the point. It's not like the 6 classes point, but the point is the endeavor. The endeavor must be there. The endeavor to unlock the secret of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Oh, the Bhagavatam is a treasure box. That's what it is. It is a treasure box. But one has to unlock it. That's the nature. It's locked. It's a treasure box. Actually, it is Baladev Vijayabhusan who is describing the Bhagavad Gita as a treasure box. In the introduction to his commentary, he makes this point. In the introduction to his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, he begins to describe that it's a treasure box and that you have to get the key and open it. Yeah, open it. Yes. Anyway, so there's that endeavor. Krishnadas Kaviraj is speaking about the scriptures and compares them to mines of jewels. So again, a mine, I don't know if you ever did some jewel mining or anything like that. Maybe, possibly. And you might have never given it much thought about jewel mines, and you may just think that jewel mines are places you just walk in and the jewels are lying everywhere, and you just fill up your pockets and walk out and get pickpockets and a backpack maybe, a wheelbarrow, and you just as many jewels as you can, you just take them out, and all you have to do is pick them up. But that's more like maybe in a dream mine. Most mines are not like that. Most mines are about digging, pickaxes, helmets, and just like digging. Like in South Africa, they have a lot of gold and a lot of diamonds, right? And they've been mining the gold for a long time. And at this stage, they have mines with shafts. Like I have one disciple who is an engineer, and his job for a while was to drill shafts for the mines. So they drill a hole in the ground, and and then an elevator is let down in that shaft, right? And so he's drilling the shafts. So he said, like, at this point, we've come to 8.4 kilometers. So they're drilling a shaft, a straight hole, straight down, 8.4 kilometers. Man, that's serious drilling, right? That's quite something. That's become serious engineering to drill 8.4 kilometer shafts. That ain't no joke. And to go down there, my God, I mean, you'd think, when lava comes through the wall, you wouldn't be surprised. How deep can you go, you know? I mean, you know, huh? I mean, how deep can you go before you really get to like some hot nebula, as they sometimes call it? So, quite a place down there, I guess. Can you, I don't know what it's like down there, but I can just imagine what it's like down there. So digging gold ain't no picnic, you know? Huh? That's quite clear. So anyway, the point is, it's an endeavor. The endeavor is there. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is comparing the Chaitanya Charitamrita to a mine filled with jewels. So it's a bit like that. You open the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then there's the first 14 verses that give you the kind of philosophical analysis of the Panchatattva, a bit technical, and then the whole thing that is further explained in an even more technical way in the next 7 chapters. If you don't see double by then, you know, if by the 6th chapter the letters are not dancing on the page and you sort of start to look at it like Tate Katmarupa Swayam Prakash, and like all these types of terminology is slowly begins to spin around in the sky of the brain. So some austerity, it's some austerity. No, okay, try to understand it now, try to go, so, mind says this is dry, can't read. No, dig. It gets so sweet, really. Anyway, if you can't make it, you can jump over. But you're going to miss something. You can jump over. Start reading a little further up, you know. Start at chapter 3. If you can't handle all the philosophy, start at chapter 7, get the Mayavadis in, and, you know, check like that. That's right. Because Prabhupada said it's sweet on all sides. But these days, I really like these 7 chapters. I like them very much. Because they're so crystal clear. You know, I think there's like, the whole tattva is described and it's just so precise and refined. It's like, very nice. Very nice. So now I relish, but there was a time when I couldn't get through there. So whatever, endeavor must be made to get absorbed. Yeah, that all the acharyas are making clear, and they are making that endeavor. They're making that endeavor to always glorify Krishna. Therefore, kirtanya sadhai, to always glorify Krishna. That is our business. Therefore, we are the Hare Krishna movement. And what do? Yes, we do. We chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Again and again. Again and again. We go all the way from one side of Europe to the other. And what do? Same thing like back home. Nothing different. Right? You know, just always the same. Go to Mayapur, travel so far, spend so much money, and half of everybody from home is there. Yeah? All the people from home are also there. And what do? We have kirtan. We could have all stayed home and have kirtan here, Friday night bhajan evening. Yeah? Why spend all that money? But different flavors, different kirtan. At the end of the month, we all go to Radha Desh, have kirtan there. Oh yeah. It's just kirtan. You can have it here as well. But different flavor. But the endeavor is met. Okay, so this is the difference between Narada Muni and us. They are making a constant endeavor to glorify Krishna. and therefore they are themselves. It's one of those grades. There's no end. Got. Any question, any comments? No.
I was wondering about sometimes it's not so easy to be aloof, or because people expect to take position, and then if you have friendly relationships or something, then people come and complain, and you think, or you don't comment it, and then they feel offended or something.
Yeah, well, like we all have our natures, and it all comes out in the wash. So in the process of purification, our natures are being tested. So we have developed a particular modus operandi, right, to survive in this world. And there are different approaches. Someone has learned to bark, So as soon as someone else is looking in that direction, why are you looking at me? Why? Oh, you know what I mean? You move, you just take a step in that direction, don't get too close. Okay, that's the person who has developed the barking technique to survive in this world. Right? And then they join the Hare Krishna movement, and they move into the temple, and they start barking at everyone. Yeah? And then, after a while, a few people start barking back, and because in the Hare Krishna temple you sort of live on top of each other, you get a lot of barking, and then, the one who's barking is really getting it, yeah? So it gets purified. Then you have a person who has the other technique, developed another survival technique, and that is the survival technique to be everyone's friend, yeah? So he's always his whole life, he smiled at everyone, his whole life, he's been trying to be balanced and pacify everyone and be everyone's friend. And lived behind this nice mask of a smile, of being so nice and so kind, and everyone has always thought, oh, this person is so nice and kind. Behind the mask, he likes some people and hates a few others. But he's developed this technique of being everyone's friend. Right? Then he becomes a devotee, and then suddenly it changes, because suddenly it's no longer about pleasing the people. The whole game all along was about pleasing the people, and now the game has changed. Now it becomes pleasing Krishna. And when it comes to pleasing Krishna, you just have to speak out the truth, whatever it is. And, you can try and say it in a palatable way, but then, not everyone's going to like it. Prabhupada many times said, Prahlad had enemies. He said, and we'll have enemies. And we'll have. So this is inevitable. Even Yudhisthira was so nice. He had some enemies. So we have to learn to just stand up for what is right. And if we learn how to do that properly, then people will respect us for that. So then we gain real respect of everyone. Yeah? Like Narada Muni, we gain real respect by standing up for what is right. So you can't just be aloof. Narada is also standing up sometimes. But it's also not necessary to become a member of the Hare Krishna Fire Brigade, and constantly look for fires to put out. Oh, a problem. Oh, I have to go. Yeah. No. See, one thing I learned when I was a temple president, after a while I learned that the first thing you do when there's a problem you do nothing. Do absolutely nothing. Right? When there's a problem, don't respond. First, do nothing. Yeah. It's a little difficult. At first, when you're new, you want to respond, but you don't respond. Don't. Oh, people will complain. Oh no, everyone will complain if I don't respond. No. Don't worry about it. Don't respond. See, they complain for a while, and then they solve the problem. Yeah. And they get in a habit of solving the problems themselves, you see. And in this way, many problems go away. But if always, if the manager always jumps up at every problem, I'm solving it, and everyone's saying, who's going to solve this problem? I will solve this problem. Then the next time, then the next time you have to solve the problem. Why are you not solving the problem? You're always solving the problem. That's your duty, to solve all the problems. So don't solve all the problems. And the only time you deal with a problem, if it's really persistent, if it keeps on coming back, those kind of problems that just keep on coming back, okay, you deal with those. All the other ones, forget about them. Ignore them. So yeah, it takes some time. You have to tame the tiger. You see, the people are like the tiger. And you have to tame the tiger. So, the tiger, in the process of taming the tiger is going to growl at you. You know what I mean? Oh no, the tiger is growling. Yes, of course, he's a tiger. That's what tigers do. They growl, but you just don't care about that. You have learned how to tame the tiger, and you follow the technique. Let him complain. When complaints fall on deaf ears, then at one point they stop complaining. And you have to be a little intelligent about it. Big things, yes. Small things. One has to get a thick skin. Necessary in the service of Krishna. So we have to become many things in the service of Krishna. The Krishna consciousness is not only like how sweet it is, I mean, one time we had this program with my dear Sachinandan Swami, and he's like on the boat, right? Where he was sharing, and he starts this talk about the sweetness of Krishna. And Krishna is so sweet and so sweet and so sweet, and then it was my turn to talk. And then I just said well, okay, of course I appreciate very much all these sweet qualities of Krishna you have described here. But that was about the time of Rwanda. And he said, well, what about Rwanda? Just 3 million people killed in a couple of days in Rwanda. What about that? Is that sweet? What about the Middle Ages, where 1/3 of the world population died of the Black Plague? Is that sweet? Right? What about the Second World War and the Holocaust? Was that sweet? We were in Germany, I think, for that. And, whatever, I brought all that in. So then the Swami sort of rolled his sleeves, took his gloves up and showed that he has claws after all. And we got into a debate, which was people liked it very much. So we had fun. But it's not only sweet. Krishna is not only sweet. And we can also not be only sweet. It's so sweet to be a devotee. Krishna consciousness is so sweet. Yeah. Just wait a while. It's not only sweet, it's heavy also. And one has to also himself become a little heavy. You have to become a little tough. That's it. We have to grow up and deal with reality as it is. I mean, that's part of the purification. So it's not. And Prabhupada would all the time do that to people, throw them in the what you call in the deep end. Yeah, yeah. Send like one devotee to a country, go and spread Krishna consciousness, all alone, right? Or a few, you know, go to England and spread Krishna consciousness. Go to Hong Kong, spread Krishna consciousness. Japan, you know, there were like 3 devotees. Go to Japan, spread Krishna consciousness. You know, all nothing from nothing. So, and they were young, very young, 20. How do you think they felt? Many were like just totally freaking out. But you know, and I was also. They gave me this Mayapur Samadhi, and I had to go to Rajasthan, and it was like 55 up to 59 degrees was the hottest day. It is so hot, and then these people there, they were so greedy, mostly Muslims and also Hindus, whatever. They were just so greedy. The only reason why they lived in that hellish place was for money. Right? Otherwise, why would you be there, you know? Yeah, they were only there for the money, to get money off that marble from the mines. And it was hell, you know. And they were so determined, these people. So obsessed. So they're so determined to cheat you and to rip you off. So you had to be more determined than them. That's the only way you could win. Right? The one who was the most determined was winning. God, it was heavy. And we had, you know, and they would come at 6 o'clock to your room, right? To try to sell you marble. Yeah? Because they had nothing else to do than marble. But we had a chance 16 rounds. And we had to cook, right? Because there was nothing to eat in the place. Right? You know? So, you know, you needed those extra 3 hours, right? At least 3.5 hours. We needed 3.5 hours more than them. Right? And these guys didn't sleep much, I'll tell you that, you know. And they would be pushing you the whole time, you know. This, that, buy that, until you crack, until you finally say, okay, load it up, you know, let's get out of here. Yeah. You had to go into this horrible desert. And then you had to go with suitcases of cash, because 70% was paid black. Yeah. So you have to cross the desert, and they see you coming with a suitcase. And they know what's in the suitcase. So you have to hide the suitcase. But even the taxis, you know what I mean? Like already, so it's like, so you take taxis far away, you know. Yeah, not too close. It's a whole thing. And you gotta watch the money all the time. So you don't want to wait too long before you buy. You might someone might visit the room. So many crazy things. Yeah, so tough, you know. God, sometimes I was fried, brain fried, everything fried, blood boiling. I want to go home. Oh yeah. So, I think that's part of this movement. Is that it's not just that we are being stretched, you know. Who wants to? I mean, who? Very few people dreamt of selling books on the street. You know what I'm saying? This was what I was always dreaming about when I was a little kid, you know. I was always thinking, when I grow up, that's what I want to do with my life. Go stand on the street and approach strangers and try and sell books to them. That's what I always wanted to do. Who But in those things, you meet these old devotees, these Prabhupada disciples now, that did it, right? That somehow or other did it. And that's where they gained their strength. That's why they now have become special people. So, we're on the way to the spiritual world, so we've got to expect that we've got to fight for it. It's not going to be easy. And we're not allowed to complain. Nakang Satina Sosati, that's what it says in the Gita. That's what Krishna's covered all corners already, Just when you think, alright, I'll do it. I'll do it then, the austerity. But I'll bitch about it the whole day, from morning to night, From morning to night, I hate this. No, Krishna says no. Nakang Satina Sosati. No hankering, no lamenting. Oh God, not even that. No. Come on, Krishna. You're not going to give us an inch? No. Not an inch. Not an inch? No. Anyabilasita sunyam. Free from all other desires. Pure devotional service. Oh my God. Really? Yes. Really. No less? No. No less. That's also there. So Krishna is not only sweet, not only, he's also a little heavy, but very kind. Very good. Any other question? After this.
It's a little bit shift. It seems like that to be unbiased and to be neutral, it's only possible if one is not much involved in the place, but can like this.
It's more the mood of the renounced order. Yeah. And that's the advantage of the renounced order. And the brahmacharis are not in the renounced order, but they are in quite a renounced position also. The brahmacharis are the legs, and as such they get a little more entangled. Right? They're meant to do things. They're the action people, right? The commandos, to translate it in army terms. Right? So they have to go and just execute the mission. So in the process you get scratched a bit. That's true. But still, like for example, big cities, right? I often thought about it, that it's easier in the big cities for the renunciants to live in the big cities. And for the householders, it's easier to live on the farms. Because if you're a householder in the city, then you have to do so much to get the money and to pay for everything. Prices are so high, etc. But as you live in the country, you have actually much more time for spiritual life, and you don't need to work so much. But for a brahmachari to live in the city is no problem, because he needs only a mat on the floor, and, so doesn't need to get so entangled. So that's okay. So renunciants, they can stay in these cities, and they don't get so entangled. They are aloof even when they're here, whereas the householders, they really cop it. They are in the thick of it, wherever they are. So aloofness is there, because although we get involved with things in the course of serving Krishna, at least we don't have a big private arrangement. So if we keep our private arrangements simple, then we stay aloof. So also householders who keep their private arrangements simple. I don't say that you have to sleep on a nail bed, you know what I'm saying? But not something that costs like so much effort to maintain. That's what simple means, right? Then that's intelligent. Such householders also have more time and energy for spiritual life. But if you want to have a lot of comfort that has a high price of energy to pay, well, good luck with your rounds. Saying good luck with your rounds, if you can chant them, squeeze them in somewhere because there won't be much time. So aloofness is good for everybody in any ashram. Okay, is that clock right? It is. It looks like a clock from a museum.
Ancient time.
Yeah, I thought it must be wrong. It looks so old. It must be wrong. Which it is. It's a bit late. I'm about 1 hour overtime, isn't it? Well, thank you very much for all your time. Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.